Muslim girls are being denied their right to observe the hijab in schools. To support the legal campaign to protect their constitutional right, please make your contribution on M-Pesa or Airtel Money on paybill number 150770, account hijab. This is an initiative of Jamia Mosque Committee and the Supreme Council of Kenya Muslims.
Horizon TV, kurunzi ya taifa.
Unajua, ukizungumzia kwamba muziki ni haramu, mara nyingi unaulizwa maswali mengi. Je, nikisikia nikiwa ndani ya matatu? Kuna kusikiza na kuna kusikia.
Allah amara Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam bil afw was safh al jamil.
Mwenyezi Mungu alimwamrisha mtume wake Muhammad asamehe na amalize vizuri, maana afute kabisa.
Sabr aljamil,
na asubiri vizuri.
Anayempenda mtume Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam asimame.
Horizon TV, the beacon for the nation.
Good evening. It's another Friday, and this is the Weekly Matters. I'm your host, Ahmed Qadar. Tonight we are discussing devolution in the pastoralist counties, the Supreme Court judgment that was delivered this afternoon by 6 bench judges, and its interpretation and what the people of Wajir particularly think about it. It has been dragged for long, and all that we are discussing, of course, with Dr. Salah Abdi Sheikh, an author, a social commentator, and a politician from Wajir, a former gubernatorial candidate, and Ugaz Sheikh Mohammed, a businessman, also a former gubernatorial candidate for Wajir, but today is here in his capacity as a businessman and a Wajir resident. Now, if I start with you, Salah, first, before we go into devolution and all aspects of devolution and how things are faring, what do you make of today's ruling regarding Wajir case?
I think it was bound to be either one way or the other. And people should know that when you go to court, you expect either to win or to lose. So what do I make of it? Those who won should be humble enough. And those who lost should accept the verdict of the court, because the verdict of the court is final. And whether you accept it or not won't make any difference. The only issue is this issue was so polarizing in the community. It was hyped up. It was the in thing. It was what was driving Wajir politics and life for, I think, over a year now.
Close to 2 years.
Close to 2 years. That it's over itself is a fresh air. That has been decided in one way or the other itself is a way to go forward. So we need to now move away from issues of polarization, issues of the way social media people have been insulting each other and all that, and work towards unity, work towards cooperation, work towards development, which has been suffering. In way people are saying that they are not going and all that. I think we need to move away from this polarizing situation into a better, more cooperative and more normal life. We can't have an election every day. An election is every 5 years. That's why it takes 5 years for election to be organized. So let's wait for the next election for whoever wants to be the governor or to hold any political position. And if you want to actually do that, you need to work towards that, put the structures that you need in place without causing any division in the community. So my take is, it has been decided.
Good. Now, Wes, you have been a player in the game itself. You participated, and it's a long story, and I think we people know what happened. But were you expecting a by-election?
No, I was not expecting a by-election. I mean, there was a possibility of a by-election, but personally, this issue to me really was something that should not have taken place in the first, to begin with. I think that, you know, everybody has a constitutional right to file a petition or whenever they aggrieve to go to court. But the situation we have is that, you know, sometimes community interests sometimes may supersede individual interests. And in this case, I think that the gentleman who felt aggrieved probably should have sought some alternative dispute resolution mechanisms.
It's good that you said that, and it happened in other parts of northern Kenya. For example, Mandera, people went to court, but the thing has been withdrawn. There has been a reconciliation through elders, and as you know well, that in northern Kenya, and this is the facts of the day, elections happen under tree even before we decide who should be elected. So how comes Wajir could not have that kind of negotiation? As you said, it should not have ended in the court at the first place. Why did it not happen in Wajir like it happened in Garissa and Mandera? And even the majority leader, by the way, referred to this and said people should talk.
Agreed. I think that you know, a series of steps that actually ended up in messing this up as to why it did not take off, as to why we did not have the handshake, the so-called handshake, and the dispute resolution, what we call out-of-court settlement of this matter. I think that there were opportunities missed, and as a result, we've come this far. And I'm so happy that finally it has come to an end. I hope that now we could carry on with the business of taking care of the needs of the people of Wajir County, as well as trying to unite the groups that have had so much acrimony among themselves for the last 1.5 years. You know, I look at this and I tell myself, what a wasted time, what a wasted amount of resources, what a wasted family ties, what, you know, so much negative things that, you know, that have happened here. I think that maybe it's a learning lesson. Hopefully in the future there will be a lot learned from this case. I think that we will have people reflect on all the mistakes that have been made, whether it is pre-election, post-election, in the court process, all that, and they will find that, you know, sitting under trees and making settlement on issues, there's nothing equivalent to that. And hopefully we'll have situations where people will do that in the interest of the community and not in the interest of power and not in the interest of individual aggrandizement.
You're very right, Salah. Talking of, you know, alternative dispute resolution, the former Chief Justice, Dr. William Tunga, when he was the CJ, he said people should not run to courts and always find a way, you know, outside the courts. And as Ugaz has aptly, you know, put it well, unfortunately it didn't happen in Wajir. Should we expect a handshake after all this?
Okay. I think a handshake may not necessarily be what we need. What we need is for people to accept. You know, you don't go to court expecting to win. You go to court expecting to lose or win. It is, you adduce evidence, you provide information, you convince the judges. If you don't convince them and they decide against you, then it's the same process. You have to accept the outcome, regardless of you know, how you feel about it. As for alternative dispute resolution, I have a very, you know, I'm not comfortable with
say it.
With the idea of this sitting under trees and maslaha system and these elders sitting and deciding on who should be the leader of a community. I think that negates the
principles of democracy.
The principles of democracy, the existence of the state, the structures put in place to conduct elections, the very idea of having a judiciary, the very idea of having a parliament. So if we go to under trees and that's how we make decisions, I think we should then try and get out of the whole system of governance, change it to a system where we have informal structures, we can actually decide things under the trees and it becomes permanent.
Can I interject that?
Before he does, may I just put my point in full?
Yes.
What necessitates that is the weaknesses of the state, is the weaknesses of the government and the governance structure we have, the weaknesses of the judiciary itself. This case should have been decided in the early months of 2018. It shouldn't have come to 2019, just about 2.9 years or something away from the next election. So this is because of that. Maybe agreeing at the start would have saved a lot of time for the community. But I am always for the courts. I'm always for following the law of the land. I'm always for abolishing any alternative governance that may be created by the way we live, the wild north, the way we start thinking that we don't need these structures, we don't need to take people to court. That's the problem we have. That's why we kill each other every year. That's why we have people being killed, and nobody has ever reported somebody has been killed. They are not. Your death is not in the occurrence book of the police stations, because you think the police stations are for a different kind of dispute resolution.
I think my colleague is taking it too far.
Yes.
Again, we're not talking at that level. We're talking about in elections and electoral matters specifically, and we're not talking about negotiated democracy at the initial, how you pick candidates and how you elect and all that. What we're talking about is when you have somebody's aggrieved. What do you do? That is the question at stake. So somebody is aggrieved because he feels he lost an election in a way that is not fair, just. And therefore, based on that, what options do you have? And that's where alternative dispute resolution comes in, where power sharing, as we have this handshake thing, even in the country coming up, is coming in, where people actually include people in the power sharing mechanism, or some form of accepting that you have something to bring to the table and you have a stake at this, and based on that you actually resolve your matters. In fact, this is one of the opportunities that was missed in the case of Wajir. I think that of course it has a negative side to it, where there are no losers. Everybody, when he loses, he will have he will throw tantrums, and and he will want a part of the cake, and he wants to, so they're not losers. But that's a general problem in the whole country. This is not something unique to Wajir or even Northern Kenya or anything like that. So I think that, that is the other
difference between Northern Kenya and the rest of the country, as Salah has said, I would like to paraphrase what he just said, is that in Northern Kenya, it's like elections are decided even before the people are voted in, and that's what he's trying to explain, that we should not go that.
Now let me say something to that. Let me in nomination processes. Just one moment. In nomination processes, and actually who will vie or who will not vie. This has worked to a certain extent for the people of Northern Kenya. In certain circumstances, it has not worked. In the case of Mandera, you know what happened. The team that was were told to step aside, actually won most of the seats. Still came in. But again, there's a lot of learning to be done in this whole thing. It has this misses and hits and misses, as they say. But I think generally our system is we've done it for so long that that's what we know how to do. And a time will come. That's why we don't have actual nominations in Northern Kenya. We don't.
You have clan endorsements.
We have endorsements where people decide so and so is this guy.
Is that the kind of thing we want for the region, despite the situation and the way things are?
Well, we have one problem, and I will tell you, and I'll give my colleague a chance. The problem here is there's a lot of illiteracy in Northern Kenya. When it comes one man, one vote, what that means is you should be able to read the ballot to begin with. You have to know what is it you
Sorry,
actually...
itching to come in.
I know, I am
Yes.
about to...
Yes.
Now, as long as the illiteracy level in northern Kenya is 90%, as compared to 90% of literacy in central Kenya, you will not have democracy as we know it. That's why, you know, people are always swayed to things that there's no one man, there's communal voting, where people decide as a community or whatever, you know, what we call stakeholder group, whatever the grouping is, mostly is communities and tribes.
Do you think, Salah?
Let me just finish. The groupings, tribes. So we will say this tribe or this sub-clan or sub-clan will vote for this person.
Yes.
You will not hear, you know, oh, everybody vote for the person you want. Why? Because they don't have the capacity to make those decisions and go to the ballot and check for themselves that box and drop for that person. So the whole thing is communal. From the inception till you drop into the box, because somebody else has to do it for you,
yes.
and everybody knows who you voted for.
Yes.
And you know, there's a lot of problems. When somebody can read and write, I think those issues will go away.
Okay, I will start from where he
Give me a
stopped.
minute because we are going for a break.
Okay, I will start from where he stopped.
Yes.
If you cannot read and write,
Yes.
you will
We
not be
decide
able
for
to make
you.
a decision.
Yes.
They decide for you.
Yes.
Now, if you are getting power is dependent upon keeping those people ignorant
Yes.
and illiterate,
Yes.
you will never be able to change them because it is against your interest. And the elites of Northeastern, it's against their interest to change this society into literate, to change the system into formal and legal, to change the whole structure of the electoral system into a way of nominations with parties and people being elected on ideas.
Because once people start thinking,
yes,
they will know what they want.
So this is a sort of a colonial system where people are kept ignorant, are kept in villages, are given handouts, and that seems to be working for a lot of people.
Yes.
And if you challenge it, like some of us did, you end up with nothing. You understand? You end up with literally nothing. Because let me tell you just one anecdote of what happened to me. There's a village where I come from. I went and campaigned there very well, and by the time I was leaving that village, I had about a good number of voters there. The day of the election, I go there, and then it's like everybody came to me holding their mouth, because they are wondering where this guy came from. They said, what happened? He said, they came and told us that your box was not brought here. Your box
was not brought here.
Was not brought to this station. How
I know you had a very beautiful manifesto.
Yes,
but then
what happened was, it is in the interest of the elites of northern Kenya to keep the rest of the population in northern Kenya,
yes, in the dark,
illiterate, in the dark, and the informal system
yes,
of wazes and under three decisions.
We are coming back. We are going for a short break. Time is on our side, but we are coming back right now. We are going for a short break, just a commercial break. And if you have just joined us, we are discussing devolution, more so in the pastoralist communities, the Supreme Court judgment that was delivered today. Also remember, we are live on our Facebook page at Horizon TV, Twitter at Horizon TV Kenya, myself at Ahmed Qadar 1. Are you on Twitter?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
I am, but
yes.
I'm not.
Okay. These are analogs, guys, but they're digital in so many other ways. We are going for a short break. Also remember that Horizon TV is now all over the country. We are on Zuku, we are on GoTV, Azam, and all other available platforms. Keep it there. We'll be back shortly.
Horizon TV, the beacon for the nation. Horizon TV, the beacon for the nation.
Welcome to the Next Gen Show.
What is a youth?
A youth is someone who is 30 years and below.
What are the reasons for this high unemployment rate?
Our education system does not address
what is in the market as jobs.
Experience.
You just started. You can't even have an experience. However,
if I spend 10 years in my schooling and they want 10 years experience and I was using the 10 years to rack up my papers, it doesn't make sense.
Is music haram? It only becomes haram when we have music instrument include.
Music and its instruments, its demonic voices.
We need to understand, shaitan is your enemy.
Every Monday,
8 to 9 p.m.
Only on
Horizon TV.
Horizon TV, the beacon for the nation.
Welcome back to the show. This is the Weekly Matters and I am your host Ahmed Qadar. If you have just joined us, we are discussing matters devolution. The Supreme Court judgment. Of late, the Supreme Court has been making what experts call some weird judgments, from the hijab to some other rulings and many others. People are allowed to agree, people can agree to disagree on what the Supreme Court says, but it remains what it is, because that is the final judgment. And if you have just joined us, like I said, we are live on Facebook, that's Horizon TV Kenya, also on Twitter at Horizon TV. You can also watch us on Zuku, Azam, GoTV, Bamba, and other free-to-air channels. Now, Salah, before we went for break, we have been talking about, my friend Ugas said, you know, the literacy level is down and people need to be decided for. You disagreed with that. I want you to continue from where you left.
Okay. I was saying just when we were off there, if you read today's newspapers,
yes.
The allocation of resources to all over the country the counties was celebrated. And Mandela was given 10.3 billion. Wajir was given 8 point something billion, or 8.2, 8 point, I don't know, about that.
Yes.
That is sufficient resources to change those counties. Specifically, the way Ugas said, that, you know, literacy will have changed the entire, you know, outlook of the community.
In the last 5 years.
Yeah, you will expect that should be priority number one. Now, whatever you do, start with what can change society, you know, in large scale, rather than doing small scale, you know, projects. But those are not in the budgets or in the policies of those counties. Why? Because if you change this society, if you provide education to every village, if you ensure those ladies who are to vote for me, understand that voting is a process where you actually take a paper and mark against somebody's name rather than having a box separate for each candidate, you will have changed society to a point where people will make their own decisions. So that you will not make a decision for them under three.
Yes.
So that you will not make a decision for them when there is what we call community participation in projects being funded by the county.
You have talked about something very important, that today the budget allocations for counties have been made public in the next financial year. And fortunately, the good thing is the pastoralist counties are getting more money than many other counties because of equalization, because of, you know, the essence of devolution was to bring these counties at par with the rest of the country, and what happened previously in the previous regimes. But the reports of the Auditor General, when you look at the reports of the control of budget, like recently, the latest control of budget says zero development, and it specifically talks about Wajir and some other counties in the pastoralist counties. What do you make of that? Where is the money going? Are the people at the ground getting, you know, a match for the kind of money that they're getting?
But we can't say much about that at the moment, because there has been a lot of issues surrounding Wajir and, you know, and northern Kenya in general. But if you look at the last 5 years plus these 2 years after the elections, there's one thing.
You are a finance expert. I want you to bring
there's one problem with northern Kenya. They don't see this, you know, budget that's being allocated to them from the central government as an investment. They see it as a consumption item. so that you spend almost 60% on recurrent budget. You employ 4,000, 5,000 people for accounts that will require 500 people to work. So you are saying you are creating employment, but what you're doing is just using the budget for recurrent expenditure instead of using for development. And what type of development are you doing? This is not development that will change the community. Development that will create markets. Development that will have an impact at that level. Development that will protect the funds that you get from being sipped away. Now what's happening is most counties in Kenya are just developing Nairobi. They're not developing themselves.
Why do you say so?
Because even the people who work there, even their own MCAs and their own directors of different departments and their own CECs and chief of SARS, they live in Nairobi. They are on a plane from Mandera, Gojir, every other weekend.
But it's not common to Northeastern only.
It is common to, it's not, I said many parts of this country. They are developing Nairobi. What's happening is the money being paid as salaries in Wajir is being spent in Isli and South Sea and the coffee houses around Jamia. So if you look at what is happening is, yes, the resources are being sent to Wajir, they're being sent to Mandera, but they're actually being consumed in Nairobi. So we need to change the way we see these resources. We need to have a plan which includes changing this society for the future in 10 years. Meaning you do a push that will have an impact, in the subsequent years, so that the 5 years that you rule can be felt in the next 5 years.
Yes, feel free.
First of all, in the case of Wajir, one thing I know is that, today, for example, in the case, the development issue.
Yes.
As to development versus, the first term governors, the ones who came in after devolution,
yes,
got an opportunity to fill in the workforce. As a result, unless you are a second term governor, in most cases,
yes,
there's this thing called, okay, I've won, I have supporters, I have to get them into the system. The wage bill is over 60-70% already as it is in Wajir. In Wajir.
I just want to quote for you something, which is part of the latest controller budget. It says the latest prop comes someday. The latest report from the budget, the controller budget says that counties, and they have mentioned several counties, but I want us to be specific what we are discussing. Mm-hmm. They have been specific about Mandera, about Garissa, about Wajir, even in some parts of pastoralist counties like Cielo and those places. Mm-hmm. They say they have spent zero
on development.
Zero, as in Z-E-R-O, on development, despite the budget being there, money being there.
The funny thing is that in Wajir, for example, there is 2.7 billion that is pending bills only.
Yes.
It can't be a pending bill and it's not a development item. I don't understand how that works. I'm not a finance guy, but my view on this is that, part of the problems we have is that, there's also treasury problems. There's all kind of issues.
Yes.
I think the way I just want to say that the amount for development is already so small because of this wage bill, number one, plus other which unfortunately, as I agree with Salah on this one, I think our foresight, we're our worst enemies. We've cried for so long that, we want to rule ourselves, we don't want to be ruled by others, we talk about so many marginalization.
Are we marginalizing ourselves?
Absolutely. We are terribly marginalizing ourselves. And the biggest problem is lack of foresight, lack of strategic leadership. I think that, we are short-term, we are 5-year cycles or even less thinking, and we're not thinking about the future and the big things that can make, a name for each of the people, a legacy for the future. Most of these, with the kind of leadership we have, unfortunately, we're not, it has a lot of issues when it comes to those things. Now, on the issue, let me specifically speak to the issue of the development part and what should be actually in that. The biggest problem we have today is that, everything has become, as he said, a consumption mechanism. It's just who gets a contract, how much does he make, and that becomes the basis for why you create. For example, you find projects being cut into small pieces to create as many people who can benefit from them. the big picture of what should be long-lasting, something strategic, something that can generate something for the future is not there. And then number two, I also see the biggest problem is we're not generating any income from the communities. We are not. We are a consumer society. We're waiting for, it's like waiting for handouts from national government and not generating any, and I agree totally with him. Also, this issue of flight of capital is a big problem. People, for example, you'll expect that with a wage bill of over 200 and something million a month, Wajir should have enough liquidity. But
yeah, because people are paid.
People are paid. They should be spending. The trickle-down effect.
Yes.
That's what you should be expecting. But unfortunately, that's not happening.
So why is not happening? What is the issue?
I think the reason is the capital flight we've been talking about. Unfortunately, that money is being spent elsewhere.
Unless you have something else to say to that. Recently, there have been many raids in several counties, including Wajir, as recent as yesterday. Now, if you were to say something, are these raids really effective? Are they political watch hunt, or is it the real fight against corruption?
I don't think it was a real fight against corruption. If there was a real fight against corruption, how many times have we raided Wajir? I think 4 times, 3 times.
Including yesterday in the evening.
Including yesterday in the evening. And so far, we have not seen anybody convicted of any crime.
Yes.
So in other words, either these raids are being carried out for an objective we don't know, or they have other, some people say they have political effect, or something is being masked which we have no idea about. But as far as we're concerned, I just hear of raids in Wajir. EIC is raiding the office of the governor, the office of the treasury, the office of this and that. And today I was actually reading that the clerk of the assembly has been arrested. It doesn't. These things look like more of what English will call contrived kind of things, where people create things like they're creating a job for themselves. But if they're really effective, by now we should have seen exactly why are they raiding these places, how much was lost, who is responsible, who should pay, who should be on the dock. So long as they're not telling us that, we just see these things as just the normal Kenyan way of creating confusion. But let's come to the real issue. Why is this 8 billion not having any effect in
you had a nice blueprint.
In these companies.
Regarding that,
as he said, capital flight. I didn't use the word capital flight. I was trying to avoid that one.
Yes.
But the best word to represent what we said is capital flight.
Yes.
What is happening is essentially you are paying your workers, and instead of going to Orhei to eat their lunch, they come to Nairobi and have their lunch in around Jamia. So what is happening is you're shifting the money. Immediately it is paid, it runs to Nairobi because the people who consume are in Nairobi. The contractors that you pay have their homes in Nairobi. Everything comes from Nairobi.
So what was the essence of devolution?
So the essence of devolution has been defeated. Secondly, there's an important issue. The allocation from central government is creating dependency, meaning people expect, as he said, to be given more resources. 10 billion is coming from central government. 10 billion is not just enough. It is more than enough. It is like pouring, it's like flooding in Mandera. It's like flooding. So we should be seeing money in the streets of Mandera. But are we seeing it? No, we are not. So something is wrong. Something is not adding up. If you go to Wajir and go to the market, you will see old notes which are, worn out completely.
We are getting.
So are you telling us that the money is not actually physically going there, or is the money going to somewhere else? So if you look at it that way, and our people don't want to actually pay for their own meals. What is happening is the government will pay, you consume that one. No taxes is collected, no cess is collected, there is no mechanism to have revenue.
Let me just say a word about corruption.
Yes, before you come in, I just want to tell our viewers that we are also receiving your Facebook comments and your tweets. John Baptist, sorry? Yeah, Haji Ramadan from Mombasa is saying that devolution is working. John Baptist says devolution is working, but it needs to be enhanced the way we do things, and he says the only way we can enhance devolution is to have more accountability and people on the ground to be involved. We also have Halima Hussein from Habaswein saying that she wasn't happy with today's ruling, and that she was expecting a different outcome. But as Salah has said, that's what the Supreme Court, you either take or leave it. Yeah, that's how it's supposed to be. So we are going to read your Facebook comments and Twitters. Keep tweeting, keep commenting on Facebook, share your thoughts. If you have questions, send us. We will read as usual live on Facebook, that is Horizontv Kenya, on Twitter at Horizontv Kenya, myself at Ahmed Qadar on Twitter. Follow back and I will follow you. Yes.
Yes, I was saying that on corruption, I think we have devolved corruption. Let me be very succinct in that.
Yes.
The whole system has a problem. I don't know what is the solution we're going to have. I think we have a lifestyle problem. I think it is our turn to eat problem.
Yes.
We are running out of ideas and vision. But one thing, in the latest case of Wajir, for example, I think we have politically, instigated push and pull of this case. And just the acrimony relating with the elections and post-election. The same was happening even before in the regime, in the term of the former governor. We have issues. The same is happening now. In fact, now it has become, I pay you, go and take care of so-and-so.
Yes.
Those type of things are happening in Wajir. And that's why you see the rates. As much as, unfortunately, the fiscal appropriation and the way things are done could be much, much better. But I think the case has a lot to do with all the things we're seeing.
Yes.
I hope that in the future, things will get better.
Okay, that is the end of our, brings us to the end of our second segment. We are going for a short break. We'll come back and wind up the entire show. Of course, we are reserving the best for the last bit. Don't turn and change your channel. Who? Yeah, Abdul Latif from Nairobi. I'm being told by my producer that Abdul Latif from Nairobi is also watching and he's tweeting and he's saying that he's following the show and enjoying. So keep it there. We are going for a short break. We'll be back.
Horizon TV, the beacon for the nation. Horizon TV, the beacon for the nation.
Welcome to the Next Gen Show.
What is a youth?
A youth is someone who is 30 years and below.
What are the reasons for this high unemployment rate?
Our education system does not address what is in the market as jobs.
Experience.
You just started. You can't even have an experience. However,
if I spend 10 years in my schooling and they want 10 years experience and I was using the 10 years to rack up my papers, it doesn't make sense.
Is music haram? It only becomes haram when we have music instrument included.
Music and its instruments, its demonic voices.
We need to understand, shaitan is your enemy.
Every Monday,
8 to 9 p.m. Only on
Horizon TV.
Join me every week for only 30 minutes to know more about our beautiful country Kenya.
Kuna watu wa sita walishikwa.
Kenya.
It's fun.
Sasa kompyuta kwa Kiswahili inaitwaje?
Kompyuta tajulia wapi? Shuleni bala.
Cha mkufu mwanaku ha akiha hu akiha hu bado kuna nusu ingine imebaki.
It's educated.
Kongo Karoba, Bizi Kagia, Oshengoreko, ready to buy.
Which Khalifa's time was the Quran compiled? Different cultures. Different languages. India. Papa John. All this is celebrating diversity.
Wait.
I like Kimasai. This is the Street Quiz Show.
Horizon TV, the beacon for the nation.
Welcome back to the show. As usual, we have been having a conversation regarding devolution and matters of the Supreme Court that happened today. We are live also on Facebook, that's Horizon TV. You can watch us on Zuku, Azam, Go TV, and all other free-to-air channels. And of course, my Twitter handle is @AhmedQadar, and I am your host, and this is the Weekly Matters. I can read some comments for you from our Facebook fans who are also watching it live. John Maura says, the governor of Wajir needs a long-term and short strategic, so that he says Wajir has been, and the entire northern Kenya has been marginalized for so long, and now that they're getting more money, they need to be strategic on what to do and where to invest. Haji Ramadan says, who's watching us from Mombasa, says, ni vyema counties za mashinani zinapata pesa, lakini wanafaa kujua venye watatumia. Yani basically what he's saying, this is an English show, but of course we all speak Swahili. What he's saying is, now that they're getting more money, they need to be smart on how to spend. Of course, you can join the conversation. We are live on Facebook, Twitter, we are there. Keep tweeting, keep posting, and I will be reading your tweets and Facebook comments. Now, before we went for break, we were discussing about the issue of money and all these things. And if you read at the Auditor General report, I'm a fan of the Auditor General report, and I do read. From 2013, before I stopped, I used to blog a lot about this. Salah knows this story, and people used to think, when you talk about these things, they think you have an issue with them as a person, when it should not be the case. And that's why the issue of literacy comes in for people to understand what people are discussing. Now, the question I want to ask you is, and I'm putting this to you before I come to Salah, is the combined money that went to northern Kenya in the last 6 years, yet the entire region has no single tarmac road. I'm not talking about the small tarmac done within the county that takes you nowhere. I'm talking about the road that leaves from one town to another town. What do you make of that? How do you feel it?
Specifically, again, as for the amount of money that has come to northern Kenya, northeastern, northern NFD, whatever you call it.
Yeah.
The marginalized counties, and the truly marginalized. In fact, that one, no one can dispute that they were marginalized over 50 years. There's nothing much to show for that amount of money. And as I said, it is because of the consumer mindset that we have. There's no long-term strategy. Again, some functions are national government functions, some functions are county government functions. Let me. We are painting doom and gloom, but yet, even with that mega amount that may have actually ended up in doing projects in those counties, those counties have a different face from what they were in the past. Let's be, devolution has worked for northern Kenya. Where we could have been if there was a strategy and devotion and commitment to good governance and making sure we get value for money and all that. If that was the case, probably we will be somewhere completely different by now. As you said, we could even do the tarmac. But I'm very hopeful these 5 years the tarmac will be done by the national government and through the World Bank project, as well as through some other the annuity program. Some parts have already been done, albeit shallow, what do we call it, the service level tarmac. It's not the heavy type. It's just surface level, but the roads have been constructed, which means at least when you drive, you don't destroy your vehicles or get very uncomfortable. But bottom line, the amount of money that has gone there, the value for money is not there. The Auditor General is right in saying that what we have on the ground and the amount of money that has gone there do not tally.
Yes, do not tally.
Yes.
The Auditor General report from 2013, I'm specific to Wajir
yes.
on this question. 2013, 2014, 2014, 2015, 2015, 2016. It's a public information. It's on the website of the Auditor General. So we are not saying anything that's not there. it indicts the former governor for Wajir, who lost the case today. Yet, we're seeing a situation whereby the current governor, where maybe there's no proper auditing that has been done since he assumed office, maybe 1 year, we're seeing a lot of raids here and there. What is that about? What do you think of that?
You know, I don't want to get too political on that one, but the point is that yes, there were a lot of problems that were there under the former regime.
Yes.
And that's why the Auditor General has reported all those things, and they have come to the Senate and they have been all over the place. At the same time, the current regime also has had its fair share of problems. As I said, the raids that we're seeing, as much as there are problems, they're also politically instigated as a result of the case that's going on, as a result of no closure on the issue of elections. As long as those issues are open, it's like an open wound.
So are you saying they were being used to influence the outcome of the election?
Absolutely. There are many things that, you know, were not done right, no doubt. But at the same time, there was also this issue of painting the county in bad picture, so that, you know, even the courts can see what's happening.
Yeah, those who say
the national government see what's happening.
Yes.
The citizens, you know, it became a game of.
Yes.
It became a game of showing who is worse.
There are those who say the former governor, since he was not on the seat, since he went to the court, to today, when we had the final verdict about, as Salah said, about close to 2 years now, there are those who say the former governor has been using social media, propaganda, you know, to issue propaganda through other people and paint the entire county negative just because he was not on the seat of power. What do you make of that?
I think that is a huge problem. Big problem in the county of Wajir.
Yes.
As I said, we have a problem of unity, and partially is because of that. So much propaganda relating to the case, relating to the performance of the current governor, relating to families, clans, naming people,
that aren't even in the,
you know, and I appeal to my young, you know, brothers and sisters who are activists on social media, one way or the other, to use it very objectively. You know, you should not be used to abuse others. I think that this is actually a cancer right now. You know, it's like having a gun. You can use it to kill somebody illegally, or you can use it to defend yourself and kill somebody in the act of defending yourself. Or, you know, it's how you use it. One is a noble thing, and one is a terrible thing. Now, if you end up using social media, and I am a technology expert, I know something about this thing, I know the foundations of all of it. I'm not a user in terms of, because it has become a children play.
Social media rules the world.
I agreed.
I totally agree. The President of the United States of America tweet the US policy through Twitter.
I think he needs to stop that. The President of the United States needs to stop that. I think he's having a
good example to use.
Yes.
Yes. Salah, you can come in. Regarding what I asked him, all that.
I think you've been hard on one side and soft on the other.
Yes.
Anybody who's watching will think that things are rosy now and they were not so rosy then.
Yes.
I think both sides have been using social media, and they've been using it terribly. And they also have been using people. They've been using people on the ground. And they haven't been using the normal cultural, you know, ceremony of having balaghlay and other things in Wajir have been turned into political tools. So the court makes one decision today, there's balaghlay for one side, the next day there's balaghlay for another side. So it has become like some sort of competition, which with no end, because in the end, those people who are dancing around will just have broken their legs and nothing substantial. They will have gained nothing substantial out of the whole process. So I think that is, you know, a symbol of the
what we are saying
bigger disease that we have.
Is, if, and I know you have been following, if you're a follower of social media, especially since this case has been on the court, there has been constant. You can feel an attack from one side to the other just because the other side lost power. There's nothing wrong with saying that.
You can also say that there has been a lot of complaints about the way the county is being managed.
Yes.
So you have to counterbalance with that.
Yeah, of course you're coming to that.
These guys have been attacking, their hands are visible.
Yes.
These guys have also been sleeping on the job, and their snoring is being had.
Yes.
So if you look at that, then I think they deserve each other.
Yes.
But now that's over. Okay? Today the court has said, oh, you guys go ahead, you guys go and sleep. So whoever who has been told now to
go ahead with the work
go ahead with the work has no excuse. You have no more excuse to tell us that there is a case going on or I'm being attacked. Sit on the seat. You know, let's see your actual authority functioning.
If the governor of Wajir, for example, of course that will be my last question, was listening to you, and having followed what happened, the propaganda, the other side countering that this guy is not doing their job, this guy is throwing stones literally on social media. Now that you have said some have been told to go sleep, and whoever is supposed to continue with the work is continuing with the work. What will you tell the one who was told to continue with the work?
Yeah, that's what I was saying before you stopped me.
Yes.
I was saying you have to assume the responsibility. Yes. Now you have been given the mandate to in full. If you thought that he had it in full anyway, because just because I'm trying to...
There was a question.
Yeah, just because I'm trying to dethrone you doesn't mean that I have dethroned you. I'm just trying. Yes. And if I fail, now you have the seat. Yes. You understand? What probably we like to see in Wajir is full authority. We like to see the authority of the person who was elected, not the
proxies.
The proxies all over the place. Because what has been happening in the last 2 years is people who are not elected are the ones who are making decisions in Wajir County, and it has been worse for it. Because once the person who is elected is quiet or is subdued or has been outshined by others, it becomes a serious problem for the community. So whoever who has the power, who has been told to the governor who has been told now to assume responsibility, should assume responsibility in full, should bring projects that are beneficial to the community, should enhance cooperation, should bring some sort of reconciliation among the polarized community, and we should see difference from him. If we were to compare with him and the former governor, we should see it on the ground. Talk is cheap.
The former governor had 5 years. This guy was only 1 year there, and there was a court case.
There was a court case. A court case is a process, and lawyers are the ones who handle the court case. It's not the governor. So we would like to see the county working. And I'm sure people of Wajir would like to see the county working. And like to see, they like to see this 8 billion in their county working. If you remember, value for money is what he raised. Value for money is very important. Professor Kivuta Kibwana, the governor for Makueni, built a hospital, I think...
for 300 million.
Yeah, for 150 million. Actually, it's 150 million. And if you go to our counties, northern Kenya, 150 million is what they use to build
in fact, the news has that the former governor for Nairobi built a bridge along Mombasa Road with that money.
150 million.
Yes. Yeah, so you can imagine that.
So you know, the way you use your money will make a difference. If you use your money, by the way you were saying, divide it among a group of people and give them as a way of making a living, then that's how you intended it, But if you want to do development, you account for every shilling. You introduce projects that will change the lives of people. And we know what we need. We started with education. We started with education and said, people don't even know how to vote. So why don't you teach them how to vote? Even if it means they will vote against you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I totally agree. The issue of literacy has not been put a lot of emphasis. I remember back in the day, Somalia achieved 90% literacy one time under the late Siad Barre.
Yes.
And the methodology they used is well known. So I think a campaign over the course of 5-10 years can change people from 92%.
Yes.
It also can create employment, by the way. You get the stipend, so still, small money for youth, Form 2s and Form 3s and Form 4s, and basically use those people to reach out to the people who are in the reserve, in the rural areas.
Now,
but there are 2 things I want to say.
Yes.
Very important.
Yes.
First of all, community participation in the process of budget making, in the process of identification of projects, identifying what is needed and what is not. The literacy has direct impact on that. Why? Because an illiterate person cannot give you that, the level, the big picture that you need to give you a long-term project that might be because most of these things might be a bit too substantive for them. I don't know what the solution is. One of the ways of solving that is actually to engage the professionals at the highest level. And you know what Kiraitu Murungi, the governor for Meru just did as of a couple of weeks. He's handing over the management of counties and the sub-counties and wards and to the people to create committees. Create committees that eventually decide priority-wise what they're going to invest their money in. And hopefully that now the kind of people even who are chairing those committees are former MPs.
Yes.
We're talking about professionals, high level. One of them, I know them actually, somebody I was in a board with.
Yes.
The late, the former assistant minister, Adams Krauri.
Yes.
So what I'm trying to say is this, and this is also was in the manifesto of the current governor. I happen to have written the manifesto.
Yes.
That manifesto. One of the things that was in there is what we call a social and economic council to advise at the top level, the county, national level, and then those will be the leading lights from the county at the top level. We cascade down to the sub-counties, and each sub-county also will have a similar committee, which will also be the ones who are managing in terms of oversight, and then so forth up to the ward. If you have that structure, and there's a bottom-up approach, I think you can solve quite a bit.
Salah.
I think before you ask me a question, I think he has the framework, but the whole idea is you should actually implement devolution.
Simple and clear.
It's very simple and clear. You have to just implement devolution.
Yes.
Devolution meant that the power goes to the lowest, village. That every village has its own council, it has its own committees that make decisions, they have priorities, they will identify where the well should be, they will identify where the land, who should settle where, they should even decide on land use within their community. I think that actually I have been advocating for a long time is reduction of the number of settlements in these places. I walked through Nordistan. I walked from River to Kutulu.
Even the walk of home by
yes, and my colleagues walked from Kutulu up to Mandera. We wrote a very long report about it. Every 5 kilometers there's a village. Who can serve that number of settlements with any amount of money? Any amount of money you're given, you cannot serve them. So you need to put this thing in a manageable way, so that the way he's saying.
We are out of out of time. But I also want to ask you one question. As you just summarize what you have to say.
So we need to implement devolution as it was intended to be, so that our people can actually benefit.
Now since the current governor of Wajir came to power, if you look at his representation in terms of communication, in terms of the kind of information that goes out from the county to the public, to the kind of communication medium being used, be it Facebook, be it media, people out there says it's one of the worst ever coming from northern Kenya. Do you expect changes from now that he has been told go on, others have been told to sleep, using your words? What do we expect? Do we expect change in terms of the structure of governance right now? Do we expect change in terms of EAC, what do you call the CEC's permanent principal, what do you call chief officers at the county level, communication department? Because to be honest, Wajir County has the worst communication department you can ever come across in a county.
I don't know how the word, how the judgment of worst was arrived at.
Yes.
Because I didn't see any survey or any
report. Social media, based on what people say on social
what
media.
people say on social media. So it's not necessarily the worst, but it's the view of some people.
So what do we expect?
What I would think is now, you see, there is the idea of being...
and I want us, we don't have time, I'm being told we cut, but I want we want to summarize 1 or 2 minutes.
There's the idea of being indebted to people.
Yes.
What was happening is the governor was indebted to so many constituencies.
Yes.
And there was always the possibility of a repeat election.
Yes.
Meaning all those constituencies had to be appeased in case there is a second round of election. So if there is no second round of election now, the governor should now get hands-on. Probably disband his communication department if they are that bad. Everybody's telling me the worst. If you have the worst, then the worst will come up.
Shot as you finish that, then I go to finish.
So okay, this should be even the parting shot.
Yes.
They should actually change. They should employ, as he said, professionals to do some of the work. They should have a program that is acceptable to the people. They should allow people to participate in the development. And you see, there's no more excuse. So they should get on with the work.
Should take charge.
Yeah.
Wajir has currently Wajir has the highest number of chief officers compared to any other county in northern Kenya. And we have seen how things have been in the last 1.5 years for the current governor. Now that he has been ruled today the case and he has been given a fair mandate to run until towards it, what do we expect? And I would like to, I'm giving you 1 minute to summarize all that and have your parting shot and we close shop.
I think the northern Kenya counties, all of them have too many chief officers and too many, you know, Garissa has the same problem almost, Mandera has the same problem, over 26 or 25. So it's not unique to this place. So I think my hope is that, you know, as a supporter of the current governor.
Yes, and as an insider.
As an insider.
Your message is going home.
As somebody who, you know, was a campaign manager for the current governor. My expectation and what is out there is simply that a reform process will be undertaken. It has to be undertaken, there's no choice. You talk of the communication department, talk of the structure of government, talk about service delivery, talk about one of the good things the governor we put out there was the World Development Fund. I think the initial intentions were great. And I think that it is working, only that, you know, because of the case. No, because of the case, the money has been held, you know, by Treasury. They have not released the money for the people who did that. But I think that the future looks okay. We hope that we can unite Wajir, have a handshake post the case, and that's our expectation.
For the good of Wajir, Ugas says we should have a handshake. For the greater one, you know, of all people, work together and move ahead as one county. And of course, the entire northern Kenya. That has been what we have discussed tonight. We have nothing much to add. Until next Friday, see you. This is the Weekly Matters, and I am your host, Ahmed Qadar.
You're watching Horizon TV, the beacon for the nation.
Muslim girls are being denied their right to observe the hijab in schools. To support the legal campaign to protect their constitutional right, please make your contribution on M-Pesa or Airtel Money on paybill number 150770, account